Hello, Galaxy. Chris Pirillo here. Somewhat early in the morning, 9 a.m. my time. Why am I doing TLDR so early? Because I thought it would be interesting. Oh, not just that, but because later today we are doing a very long potential live stream. Well, no, we're doing the live stream, but it will absolutely be very, very, very long. Well, no, it may be very long. Later today in the other YouTube channel, youtube.com/Lockergnome, at about 4:30 Pacific, we're going to begin the iPhone X. You crowdfund it for me to review video live. I don't know how long it's going to be. It could be long, I should say that, because it just kind of depends on how much engagement we get around it. I'd expect that it would be somewhat opposite of the engagement I'm anticipating for this morning's live broadcast, because I normally do not live stream TLDR at 9 a.m. Pacific. But we thought we would throw everybody an opportunity to tune in early, my time, potentially later your time, when we've done TLDR in the morning in the past. We seem to get a more international audience because everybody else is awake while my country is still half asleep. And when I say my country, I mean specifically here, me sitting in this chair. I'm still somewhat half asleep. I've been awake for maybe an hour or so it's not like I haven't had time to acclimate to the real world after waking up from a dream. Did not set the alarm or anything, so I'm very grateful I was there and punctual for this. This is the Lockergnome Daily Report, TLDR for short, an AMA every day, a Q&A with you and me. Normally I'm a lot more vibrant, but that's the thing. I'm trying to start it off the right way with the tea, which doesn't really have any caffeine in it. It's just more of a routine, I think, than anything. I think everyone seems to have a morning routine, and my new routine involves hot tea. Doesn't always work that way. And cursors that I always have to escape while I remind you. Go.tagjag.com/freepoints is where you want to go if you want to earn gift cards for iOS or Android. That's something that you should do in the immediate future, because there's no time like the present until you're in the future, and then the present has passed. So right now is the best time to do it. The next best time to do it is when you remember to do it after now. Well, I'm just saying, well, I should have done that a year ago. Have you ever done that? I should have done that last year. Well, that was the best time to do it. The next best time to do it is now. So this is always the best time. Probably not the best time for me to sip, though, because I'm still getting steam coming off this container. This was sent to me by Zach, not the name, a name of a person, Zach, but the company Zach, and I'm grateful for that, because I wouldn't have had it otherwise. It wouldn't have been something that would have been on my radar, but it really works well for keeping tea hot. It's like a completely metal object, a cylinder in which sits liquid that I may imbibe. Still a little too hot. Okay, lost a few taste buds there. That was a bad idea. We'll see. It remains to be seen whether or not this live broadcast is a bad idea. You should have received a notification letting you know that the live stream is happening right now, if you've turned on notifications, which I assume you have. I made sure I warned everybody in the new channel trailer. Or trailers, I should say, because I did a couple of them. See, good morning, good evening, it's all over the map. And you also see the Disney Toy Box figures that were sent to me. I unboxed them the other day. Jedi had a lot of fun playing with them, and I think the video that's going to go out for them is probably, for Disney's attention, is probably going to be the video I did last night. I posted it to Twitter on Star Wars Radar, and also on, I can see, I'm not completely asleep, thank you. The video I shot of her playing with these yesterday, it was really, it was a lot of fun. She didn't know I was recording her, so I think that video is probably going to be going public in the Geek Family Fun channel, but if you want to watch it now, I want to say, I shared it on the Star Wars Radar Twitter feed, and then retweeted it from my Chris Pirillo account, and the Lockergnome account, I believe. So that I think is going to turn out to be the actual use case for showing people these Star Wars figures and how kids, or she played with them. Not kids. Kid played with them. Earl Green, I'm sure, is very happy to be here. He doesn't normally get to catch these live videos, though you do see him active in Discord chat. Earl has been a supporter of mine for quite some time, and you can join Earl if you want in Discord. Head over to either twitch.tv/Chris Pirillo to become a sub, or patreon.com/Chris Pirillo to become a patron. It's really your choice. If you were to ask me which one I prefer, after looking at some statistics this morning, I would tell you Patreon, even though Patreon's not perfect. So Twitch, as it turns out, takes 50% of the revenue from subs. I was like, wow, really? Okay, that's good to know. 50% of the $5 subs. I think it goes up in my favor to 60% if you're a $10 sub, and 70% split if you're a $25 sub on Twitch. But that was something I learned. I'm like, well, that seems a little off. It's good to have subs, don't get me wrong, but like 50%. I'm like, whoa. Ouch. Okay, that's one hell of a processing fee, I suppose. But just FYI. And Google's somewhere around 30%. For the super chats. I was mentioning this yesterday, fees, and I was talking about it specifically, I think, in the podcast recording. I'm not going to record the podcast after TLDR this morning. I prefer to be a little more awake when I record it. I don't know if I'll record it before we do the iPhone 10 video in the other channel, which is scheduled. You should be able to see the preview window for it. But I don't think I'll be anywhere near ready to do more stuff after that video, because I'm anticipating it'll be about 4 hours long, max. Minimum 1 hour. It all depends on the type of interest we're seeing from the community in terms of crowdfunding an iPhone 10. It could happen. I just don't know if it absolutely will happen. Better Said asks, did Chris give up coffee or just lowering intake? I hesitate to say gave it up, because I didn't give it up outright. Oh yeah, the reason why I just stopped drinking it was because I was trying to change my own patterns of behavior, because I was making a lot of changes there in the beginning of July this year. 4 months ago or so. 5 months would it be? I don't know. Lost count. So. I stopped drinking coffee as I'd normally had it at home. I rarely drank it black. I mean, I'm fine with, sipping espressos, but jury's still out in terms of how it may actually impact your overall health. So I'm not drinking it, or at least attempting to not drink it daily. It's hard to avoid coffee, when I'm, in the rain. And it's just, kind of that time of year, that, you just have this comfort food or this comfort beverage that you want. So when it's raining, I'm more inclined to, in like fall, specifically fall and winter, I'm more inclined to sip on a coffee, an espresso, than I am in the summer. So I'm finding it somewhat difficult to completely avoid. I've definitely had my annual peppermint mocha, and I'm good there. I think I'm covered. Because I definitely can't drink those regularly. Too much, even at half the amount, too much sugar. Even drinking it with coconut milk, with it being vegan, in that particular recipe, it's just too much. But a shot of espresso doesn't do me too much harm. I can't say it gives me that much of a jolt either. It's just more that flavor profile of coffee. So I didn't quite give it up entirely. I never promised that I'd give it up. I cut severely back, and in many cases, or on many days, just did not have it at all. So maybe once or twice a week, but certainly not once or twice a day. It's been great for revenue savings too, because in calculating how much it may cost in the average week, maybe about $20 in coffee. Not having that is saved money. So there are ways that I'm still trying to cut back, not just for health reasons but also budgetary reasons. Santiago Hinojosa comes in and says, "Hey Chris, finally could join a live stream again. Glad you made that tweet last night, Santiago, talking about how you listened to me on Anchor." And then, of course, someone followed up with saying, "Oh, he's on Anchor?" So this is actually perfect timing. You would say this organically, because I got an email from Anchor making some suggestions for engagement and I guess I have to do a follow-up, but I'm going to be sending them basically your tweet, as well as the tweet of the person who replied was very happy to find out I was on Anchor. And that's something I have to explain to Anchor is like, look, I'm publishing there, but I don't think people know I'm there. In fact, the call-in, you may remember from a few days ago, we haven't received many call-ins for the podcast since I did that. But one of the call-ins was like, hey, you're on Anchor? How did I not know this? How long have you been on Anchor? Like, there's very little I can do. And I think that the only way of effectively doing it is when the podcast is published, promoting where you might be able to listen to the podcast in various feeds. The RSS feed, which is going to confuse. I really don't want to list the RSS feed because that just confuses, I think, a great many people. But linking to Overcast or Pocket Casts or iTunes and Anchor to let people know, hey, today's podcast is up. So that they could listen to it. I have a feeling I'm going to have to tweet it out, but I don't think that's going to bring any more engagement. Someone says iPhone 10 is irrelevant. Do fundraising for the Razr phone. I think I'll do a fundraising for the Razr phone because I don't think they're going to get back to me on a review unit. But let's get through the iPhone 10 thing to see how that goes. Because I don't know how that's going to go yet. And I wouldn't say it's irrelevant either. It may be irrelevant for you, but, based upon my feed, it is far from irrelevant in general. How's your experience going with the HTC U11 Life, someone asks. It's fine. I haven't honestly had a chance to use it, as much as, other device reviewers could. But remember, I'm not a device reviewer. I'm not a reviewer. I do review things. I do talk about things, but, I haven't had, a tremendous opportunity to basically dive deeper into it. There are certain things that would keep me from really pushing too deeply in usage. Not because it's not a capable device, because I think it is. It's that I think the software is something that I believe would get in my way. This is not to take away from the device experience that, HTC's put together with the Sense UI. I'm just not a fan of third-party overlays. I'm not a fan of, generally muddying up the experience by putting software on there that I didn't ask for. That's me. I know I'm like a rare bird because it seems like everybody and their grandmother loves the Samsung experience, but I have not, been that compelled to dive further into it apart from using it initially. The camera can't necessarily go toe to toe with the cameras that I've been accustomed to using. So it's not that I would ever consider replacing it as a daily driver. I think I've said everything I've needed to say about the device. No one was necessarily asking for me to look at the device before I got a hold of it, and I'd be shocked if, apart from you, anybody else would necessarily ask about it. And spending too much time on something that no one wants to talk about can be pretty dangerous. And when I say nobody, I'm not saying you're a nobody. I'm the nobody. But if, for example, when I start going off the beaten path and start talking about Star Wars stuff, I know a lot of y'all are like, what's going on? Well, you're in for a rude awakening, because when I start playing Star Wars Battlefront in the Star Wars Radar YouTube channel, it's gonna be a bulk of my streaming day. We'll see how it works on YouTube, and if we don't get much engagement there, we'll try doing something on Twitch. Although I'm not sure. I'd be inclined to do Twitch because I'm not a partner for the Star Wars Radar channel on Twitch, and so there's very limited opportunities to grow. We're seeing some there's a good conversation about beverages there. Earl, of course, likes Earl Grey tea. Hot. Oh, you Star Trek fan, you Trekkie Trekker. Yeah, there are more teas I don't like. I about the only teas that I've ever enjoyed involve rice, like the sencha leaf, like the green teas. I ultimately gravitate towards. As much as I like, as I mentioned, peppermint mochas, I can't stand peppermint teas. There's just something about it that's just like nauseating to me, and I think it comes back to it must be a flavor that just kicks. I don't mind peppermint, but in a tea, in water,
toothpaste.
no, I don't think it's toothpaste, but I'm not a fan. Someone mentions the iPhone and 8 Plus should be at 120 hertz. Yeah, I think Apple would definitely go, the right direction if they brought ProMotion to the smaller screens. I think it's possible, but I don't think it's going to be a use case if they don't think it's going to sell any more devices. And so that's the thing. They're going to certainly be moving forward with it with the iPad. It's a boon on the iPad. I believe that devices, can benefit from, a faster refresh rate. The responsiveness would just be, through the roof, which is one of the reasons I would be taking a look or wanting to take a look specifically at the Razer phone. I think Google would be more inclined to integrate 120 hertz type of technology within the next Pixel phones more so than Apple, because Google has to basically prove its worth. It's got to say, hey, look, we're doing something truly different, truly amazing, and that could very well be it in the next iteration of Pixel phones. Not saying they can, but given that Google has already modified the platform specifically for Razer and that particular screen refresh rate, you never know. I think it's an extreme possibility. I'm still disappointed that I'm not going to be able to get my Google Home properly set up because of massive, just really bizarre shortcomings of the setup process for the Google Home that I just can't get around. I direct messaged Google, listen to their non-response. I mean, this is so stupid, honestly. It's the dumbest type of response. Like, they wasted all of 2 seconds using a macro for this. Hi, Chris. Thanks for reaching out. We don't have any news to share at this time. We're always looking for ways to improve and really appreciate your feedback. Thanks for letting us know. Yeah, they actually typed that out. Right. And if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you. Google customer service. Carl B. asks, Chris, what device do you think, or do you do most of your work on? I can see an iMac, iPad, MacBook, Pixel. What works best for you? Well, it all depends, Carl. And thanks, by the way, for your support. It largely depends on what it is that I'm doing and where it is that I am. I don't like spending a lot of time working in this particular room. I have, for potential travel needs or for powerhouse needs, I've got a MacBook that I've got this live stream connected to. If I'm working in this room, then it's usually on the iMac. It's a bigger screen. I could easily get rid of the iMac, though, in terms of a daily workflow. It's nice to have, though, specifically for these videos. So it's probably overkill to be able to use it to zoom in on the screen during live videos so that you can see the chat when I do live videos. I'm still not sure, which direction I'm going to go with the iPad. I'm not sure how to best not waste money on it, like in the problem with selling a somewhat newer device. It just feels like I'm not getting my money's worth out of the iPad. And it may end up being that, I kind of hold on to it indefinitely if I have to, and then eventually it becomes a machine for Diana to potentially use when she's, freed from, pretty much only having to use her phone because she's with Jedi so frequently, and Jedi wants whatever you have. The iPhone is now primarily there for compatibility reasons, just in terms of keeping something around to test. I would say the device I'm using most frequently is, when I'm out of the room, is this, and I'm more often than not out of this room. So it's the Pixel 2 XL that drives a lot of my productivity. There are certain things that I'll wait to do when I get back, like writing. I prefer to do long-form writing on the desktop. If it's just a quick, simple email reply, it's easy enough to do on the phone. So it's all contingent on the task at hand. Shirag comes in with a super chat. Morning, Chris. Galaxy here. Early day today. Indeed, it is. Not too early. Like I said, I was up, but I pretty much anticipated we would get pretty low attention or engagement for TLDR this early in the day. But the alternative was to shoot TLDR right before doing a long form live stream later today or right after, and I'm like, it's too much time sitting in front of the camera. I don't even know how the heck I'm going to do the Battlefront gameplay. And I've heard a lot of really bad things about Star Wars Battlefront. A lot of very bad things. I've been trying to read up about the system. They've got like 5 payment methods and star cards again and loot boxes or whatever the hell they're called. I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed. I'm like, why can't they just make a Star Wars game that I can play? I don't want to have to, earn this, that, and the other thing. I just want to just play the dang game, man. It's probably going to be me playing largely in story mode, and then maybe after story mode, I'll be done with it. But honestly, if I make, I'll feel it will be a win. Certainly if I enjoy it and if I understand it. But if I'm able to get back in super chats to pay for the game, then I will have considered it a win. I'm not sure how I feel, though, about how EA is approaching Battlefront. There seems to be a lot of problems with it. Someone asks, since you like the customizability of the UX, have you tried Linux distros? My MacBook Pro Logic board died, and I'm now using Linux Mint 18.2. It's a pretty good experience so far. My version of Linux is Android. Until Google gets rid of it. Google will eventually step away from Android. Or not Android as it is, but as it's been. And this is something that you would see in the beginnings of Project Fuchsia. Or Fuchsia. I don't know if it's Project, but it's basically the next iteration of what Android or the Google platform could be. And I think Google will migrate to Fuchsia, if only because they control it stem to stern, and can make up for the mistakes that they made with Android at the beginning and along the way. I think that could very well come to fruition within the next couple of years. And I think it's a smart thing to do, too. Loosening your dependence on a legacy platform, which is fine. I'm not slagging Linux at all. It definitely has its values, but in its benefits. But I guess my take on Linux would be, well, what can I do on it that I can't do on anything else? And I see that even between iOS and Android, and certainly with Windows and Mac OS, right? And I'm not a system administrator. I don't care to get in there and tweak things 7 ways from Sunday. I feel like I'm being very well served by a lot of the consumer grade choices there. Dennis Brick comes in with a super chat. Says, here's $4.65 for a grande peppermint mocha. Enjoy. Thank you, Dennis. They had a buy one get one free at BOGO the other day, so that's when I enjoyed mine. I had mine for free, and we basically got Diana's. Though I do have to mention, Google's getting 30% of my peppermint mocha. I think I was talking about that earlier in the broadcast there. But yeah, so I'll have to get a tall, unless that's what a tall costs, at which point I would say, what? I'd like to believe that the things that I do on a regular basis when I'm awake are worth far more than the average Foffy. Ugh. I think we're going to keep this TLDR at right around a half hour, so you got about 6 minutes left. And then we'll go ahead and wind down, if only because, as I mentioned, it's early in the day, and I know why this thing is waking up. For some reason, I know why it is. So my iPad sometimes the screen will wake up, and I think I've figured out why. Because as soon as someone tags me in Discord, I've got Discord notifications turned on the iPad, and as soon as someone tags me, then I get a notification, but the notification disappears because I'm already focused on this particular app, and it clears the notification because I saw it. So it's nice that it's cross platform there. Campaign is amazing, Chris Pirillo, and the good news is that they have already announced that they have a DLC on December 13th. Well, but I don't know if I need downloadable content. To keep things fresh, but I enjoyed playing Battlefront with my brothers. I did that live sometimes, although we had sometimes some issues pulling them in through apparently the way Sony does things with the group chats. It's different than what I'd been used to, and the compelling reason to play was, when I was playing with other people, and I just ultimately lost interest. I think I made it to like level 50, like on double points weekends. It was a boon, and I enjoyed it, certainly, but inevitably it was just difficult to play a game that was matched for my skill level. I mean, not just my interest level. I probably would have played indefinitely if they would be, making stories or allowing me to play against AI rather than against a live against other people. And I know a lot of others would want something different, but I guess to me that's ultimately where I kind of lost interest in Battlefront, and I just stopped playing altogether. I'm hoping that this time around will be different, and I don't know if downloadable content's going to change anything for me. Although I appreciate not having to have a quote unquote season pass. I never picked up a season pass. I had an EA subscription, and I know I had the Sony subscription, but I don't know if I don't want to pay for that. I don't want to because I just don't think it's necessarily worth doing. If I don't have to pay for something, I'm not going to pay for it. That's generally how I feel. So we've got, let's see here, about 4 more minutes. I'm hearing some shuffling out there, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on. But either Diana's awake or Jedi's awake. But I'd hear Jedi if Jedi was awake. It's not worth it on Battlefront 1, but 2 doesn't have one, and the DLCs are free. So there we go. That's, I'm fine with that. With the content, kind of keeping things fresh, and if I can play these games without having to play against other people in real life, until I feel like I'm ready, then I'd be happy. Of course, playing against my brothers or with my brothers is a different story. If they get Battlefront, I don't know. Given the amount of negative press that EA's had around it, I'd expect them to really kind of go overboard with making it easier. So maybe they'll be able to clear up the confusion around confusion from like dedicated gamers on the payment structures. I don't know if that's absolutely going to be the case. Chris, should I take back my iPhone 8 Plus since it's garbage software? Sure, if you want. I don't care. That's up to you. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. If you're still using it and it's fine, stick with it. I think Google has not perfected this either. It's completely and undoubtedly up to you. You've got certain decisions that you're going to need to make. If you are well served by your previous device and you still have it, you have to ask yourself, why do I have an iPhone 8 Plus? I think it could get better. Like if earlier indicators, earlier versions were any indicators as to how iOS evolves, I think iOS will get somewhat better with iOS 11.3, because iOS 10.3 is when iOS 10 got okay. So I'm expecting that iOS 11.3 will be when iOS on any device gets okay. Before then, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I appreciate Apple's development cycle. Not even sure I have experience or enough experience to let you know that I like Google's development cycle either. I like the things that Google does, certainly, and I like certain things that Apple does, but it's up to you. I think the iPhone 10 is garbage, like in terms of UI and UX. I mean, I've seen so many people post screenshots of the bar. Like they'll post a screenshot of a web page that they're reading, and there's like this black bar that is literally just like slapped right on top of the text that they're reading. Like it just looks horrible. It just looks bad. And Google's done similar things too. I'm not gonna let them off the hook. Like the default Pixel launcher doesn't separate very cleanly the nav bar buttons in its app drawer by default. But the reason why that is somewhat jarring to me is because the software buttons themselves, they're floating, they're software, and if you can't separate those layers with visuals, it seems sloppy, and that to me is iOS. iOS just it is sloppy. I don't think an iPhone 10 is going to change that. Speaking of sloppy, I did my best getting a TLDR to you today. Again, now that I am more awake than I was at the beginning of the video, I'll be doing a longer live video for everybody today. So hopefully, if engagement is there. On the other YouTube channel, youtube.com/Chris Pirillo, be sure to tune in. Certainly, that's where you're going to have an opportunity to have me review an iPhone 10 for you. You're going to crowdfund it. I will review it. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting experiment. That is for sure. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a sub or a patron. Thank you for asking questions, even this early in the day for me, as late in the day it may be for you. Maybe you were expecting it at the normal time, threw you a curveball, which is a baseball thing, I guess. I'd be lucky enough to throw a ball, period, let alone a curveball. Thank you once again. I love you. I appreciate you. And at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices. May the Force be with you.